Park Board meeting to order. Can't believe it's February. Everyone should have received via your packet from Deb the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any changes, corrections, or omissions that anyone caught that need to be corrected?
I just caught one typo. It's on the section about the temporary sled holder. The
Yes.
second paragraph, the word liable is misspelled.
Great. Any other corrections? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. The first item we've got coming up on the agenda is the Grandview Park, the field number 4 renovation that the Boosters is planning to do. There was information on it in the packet. Mike, you want to pick it up?
Yeah, so Hudson Boosters submitted basically not an application, but a proposal to the city to renovate one of the fields to accommodate 13U baseball. The overarching Hudson Booster board, they voted on it at a previous meeting. I included those minutes so you could see what was approved. And so I wanted to bring it forward to Park Board for approval if you deem it appropriate tonight. The one thing that I wanted to point out is, Hudson Boosters obviously has a long history with the city, and we want to try and accommodate as much of their, recreational opportunities as possible. But there are other groups up there that utilize the fields, including the Hudson Softball Association, which is the adult league, and the Hudson School District. They utilize the fields for JV practices, games, and some varsity games periodically, depending upon the weather. So those groups, I did not reach out to them to see how this impacted them, but I think I just want to bring it forward from the board. I know there's a lot of people on here tonight, some from various agenda items. So Pat, if you think it's appropriate, we could open it up for comments to see how this would impact their groups and kind of give their feedback on it before the board made any decisions.
I think that's a very good idea.
Okay.
Deb, do we have members present on the Zoom meeting that?
Yep. If they can just, I guess, I don't know, so everybody doesn't chime in, if you want to just state your name when you speak. We have Abrahamson, Rivor from the school. I'm sorry, Amanda Abrahamson, Jim Rivor, Matthew Parent, Corey Bro, Aaron Haskins, Dave O'Brien, and Adam. I'm not sure who Adam's with, but unless somebody else jumped in, but I don't know who wants to go first.
If you don't mind. This is Matt Parent. I'm the one who brought this proposal forward. I would just like to add, I know you're going to solicit feedback here from other groups. Part of the proposal here wouldn't be to modify any of the ability for softball to host practices or games. The baseball community, or baseball teams with the Boosters, would be using a portable mound that could be taken on and off. We would need new plugs in for the bases, but again, that doesn't mean softball wouldn't be able to use the field. And then, as is stated in the proposal or the estimate, part of it is it would be skinning back the infield, so the infield dirt would be expanded a little bit, but again, that doesn't take away the ability to play softball on the field.
Okay.
Evening, board. My name is Jim Rivor. I was wondering if I had a moment, please.
Go ahead, Jim.
So I don't know if you want cameras on or cameras off so you know who we are, but I can do that for you. There you go. Coming live from my garage because my grandkids will be here any second, and it'll cause chaos in the house if I'm in there. I guess I was just a little concerned, and as a stakeholder, and I guess when I saw the agenda and I looked through kind of the preferential uses for the fields, that as a tier 2 person, and I don't know about the tier 1 people, but not knowing this, if someone would have called me on Friday to let me know that this was actually happening, I might not have known either. And I guess I have some concerns. I don't think this is probably the right time and place maybe to address all of the concerns. My biggest concern would be that not all the stakeholders that use that field have had an adequate time to even think about the ramifications of changing the fields. And I wondered if there's a way that we can maybe table this to the March meeting and have a chance for the stakeholders involved to meet with everyone as a group, baseball, softball, some of the traveling teams possibly that use the fields, and see what that ramification would be. I can share some concerns if you want. Otherwise, I didn't know if that would be something that we can just say, you know, let's get everybody together all on the same page before we tear up something that we just fixed, you know, last year to fix the infields.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just hoping maybe we could, I can give you some reasons if you want. Otherwise, I don't want to use up your time. If that would be a better use of our time to meet as a group first and then bring it back to the board.
I think it might, personally, I'm saying this, that it might be better to meet as a group first and with staff and then come back to the board with something that's concrete or something that we can get our arms around to discuss rather than something that's just totally open right now. Mike, do you have a feeling on that?
I think it's good to get input from all the stakeholders that use it, just so everybody's on the same page. So like I said, we want to make it usable for everyone. Obviously, it's a tough situation where we're on such limited field space throughout the city and surrounding communities. And so, yeah, I guess I would be open to anything, Pat.
Paul, what are your thoughts, or Mike, or anyone else?
I think I would motion to table at this time because I think it makes sense to hear from more people. I kind of like that idea without getting into the nitty gritties tonight. And take it up in March. I think that makes sense to me.
I agree with that too.
Someone would like to make that into a motion, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I did. I want a motion to table this until our March meeting.
I'll second that. Kennedy, I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion at this time?
Yes, Mr.
Go ahead.
Chair.
Go ahead. This is Jim Revore. I just want to say thanks, and I just think this is a great move on your part. I appreciate the help, and like I said, once we all get together, I'm sure we can work something out. I just would like to not waste your time at this point.
I appreciate that, and I'm sure we can. I think we're all working to go towards the same goal is to make it work. So the chair will call the question. All those in favor of postponing until the March meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Go right ahead.
So I will help accommodate setting up this meeting with Jim and others. How would you like the result of that meeting presented?
You want to have a meeting with Mike Moroz and myself beforehand and then bring something to the park board?
I'm open to whatever you'd like. I was just looking for direction because I'll set up the meeting with Jim and others, and then I understand this will be on the next month's meeting agenda, but I didn't know if you needed like a meeting recap or what would you like me to present?
Matt, I think a memo just summarizing the conversation. Obviously, when you have the meeting, I would like to be involved in that. If you could invite me to it too, that'd be fantastic. But just a memo summarizing the conversation and outcome from that meeting, that we organizations are on the same page and park board can make an informed decision based upon that outcome.
Great, thank you.
Yes. Is there anything else in relationship to that? If not, and it's kind of an adjunct to it, is B on our agenda was a discussion about the Sandpiper fast pitch, their request letter to us. Mike, you want to pick that up again?
Yep. So after our January meeting, obviously the park board approved the field use policy and for Grandview and Burton Park and the user fees associated with that. The next day, I received the attached letter in your packet from Sandpiper Fastpitch, addressing some of their concerns, and they had some recommendations in that letter. And I told them that obviously I'm not, that's not my authority to give them, to make their recommendations come true. And so I wanted to bring that back to the park board, make you aware of their concerns, and if you have any thoughts on amending the policy that we had just passed this last month. I guess, from my point of view, I guess what I'll say on it is, looking at their letter, if you look at number 1, it says revise priority 3 to remove nonprofit requirement, create a new priority 4 for youth sports organizations with 85% local participation, without a nonprofit designation to ensure local teams are ahead of non-resident regardless of nonprofit status. So all that leading to say, working for the city of Hudson and having the fields in the city of Hudson, I want to have the kids that live in the city of Hudson and go to school in the city of Hudson to have use of those fields first and foremost, right? And that's through either the Hudson Boosters or any other local sports teams. And so, if you look at the policy itself, the priority classes, number 1 is Adult Softball Association based upon history. Number 2 is the Hudson School District events, JV and varsity softball in the spring. And then Hudson Boosters is number 3. Number 4 are other local nonprofit youth sports organizations serving groups with 85% Hudson child youth participation. I think, the reason that's in there is because we want the local youth to be using the fields. The one thing that's the hang up right now is the other local nonprofit status, the nonprofit status. And so, does the board think that removing the nonprofit status, does it matter if the organization is for-profit or nonprofit as long as the kids are from Hudson? And Aaron Haskins, I'm sure Aaron is on here tonight. I obviously, Aaron, chime in if you want to address the board with some of the comments that you made in the letter and that they can chew on.
Yeah, that was our biggest goal is that nonprofit, whether we're nonprofit or profit, I think the bottom line is you as a organization in Hudson should be serving the Hudson people that pay the taxes and our kids. And I think profit or not, and I told you guys last week, we're
We lost you, Aaron.
Hey, this is Adam Jewell. You guys can hear me, but I'm working with Aaron as well, part of the Sandpiper, so he's on there. But yeah, it was just our concern that without that nonprofit status, we'd fall all the way to the last priority. So that's where we're kind of requesting, is that a concern of the city, whether we're profit or nonprofit, knowing that we're made up of Hudson residents and Hudson girls. So we just want to kind of clarify that. We're looking into becoming a nonprofit, but to get all that pulled together by this spring is probably a tall task. We'll keep looking into it, but that's just something we wanted clarification on for sure.
Paul, do you have any thoughts? You were really involved with the formation of that policy.
Yeah, my thought is I actually really like the policy we set. I think it makes sense. I like the 501c3s before the profit groups. And I would encourage Sandpiper to apply for, nonprofit status. I think that's the easiest thing. I think if based on the timing, maybe what we could do is give them a 1-year waiver or something like that. But I think the policy as set in the long term is a good policy. So it encourages the sports groups to be nonprofit and encourages local participation. And I think that makes sense for the city. So I don't really want our fields being used by for-profit groups unless there's extra additional space after the nonprofits have been taken care of. So I just think I'd like to stick by our policy. And if there's some kind of a a waiver understanding or something with Mike that could be worked out maybe in the first year here, but I think it's good actually to encourage Sandpiper to become a nonprofit. So I like the criteria we've set, and we've also set it. So I feel like I don't really want to go back to what we've done.
I like your idea, Paul, of being able to grant them a 1-year exemption, being that they're a new organization to get all that accomplished. But like you said, it's our brand new policy. It's one that we have given a great deal of thought and consideration to. Anybody else have any thoughts or comments?
If I could speak real quick on that.
Yes, I just agree. I would just say that I agree that having spent this much time developing your policies here, that yes, I don't think they should be changed at this point. I would not be opposed to a waiver for 1 year. Putting them, I guess, in that priority 4 category for 1 year until they, but I think to change the policies now would not be a good idea.
Karen, is that a motion on your part?
Yeah, okay. Let me see if I move that we do not change the policies as they exist, but that we grant and I'm sorry, I'm going to lose the Sandpipers a waiver for this first year, and that they could qualify under priority 4 this year.
Anybody seconding that? We need a second for that.
I have a quick question on that.
Okay.
Maybe it's an opinion from Mike. If they were 4 this year, but then fall to 7 next year, can you predict? I guess can you predict how much that would harm them from going to a dropping down in priority? Would they go from getting really great field choice to very little, or is that hard?
Well, I don't know what would preclude them from becoming a 501c3.
That's kind of my point.
It's pretty much fill out a paperwork and a tax return.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead. And this is Aaron Haskins, and we'd be willing to do that, I think. But the timing of it right now, it takes some time to process.
Sure.
And yeah, that 1 year exemption would be, I think that would be more than fair for us. We have about 60 to 80 kids that are potentially going to be involved here. To not have that waiver would be, I think, it'd be tough because you're going to be pushing a lot of people away from softball itself and youth sports, where right now technology is dominating kids' lives and getting them on a field and getting them out of the house. And I think that's a big thing. And I think you guys would promote that as well. I think that 1 year waiver I think it's fair.
Yeah.
And we appreciate that.
When I moved, I'd second where Karen was. My point is, I don't want to be in the same spot next year. If it is truly your intention, to work for that, and it's a lot of paperwork and it's a lot of back and forth. Totally understand that. But with that waiver kind of coming hand in hand with your due diligence of looking into becoming a non-for-profit, if that's your goal, that makes a lot more sense than us having the same conversation next year saying, hey, can you change it up for us again? So I guess that was my only hesitation with seconding.
How about adding the word just a 1 year extension?
Yeah, should we amend my motion to make sure that if they do not get their 501c3, this waiver only applies to this year, will not apply to the future if they don't get a 501c3? Would that be better if the amendment, if the motion were amended that way?
Yeah, I think that captures the true spirit of what we're trying to, what both parties are trying to accomplish here. So I'd second that with the added part.
Okay. So for clarity, we're going to suggest to them that they have a 1 year exemption to go ahead and get their 501c status. It'll only be for this year. And then next year will be looked upon as a new, right? Because they wouldn't be a 501c3 anymore. They'd go into some other category.
Agree.
Is there any further discussion? If not,
There is,
Chair will call-
Mr.
Go ahead.
Yep, Mr. Chairman, Corey Bro, on behalf of the
Yes.
Hudson Boosters, I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity to table this, much like we did the cities or the field renovation. The Boosters has accommodated for this new tier structure. Although we have a 70-year history partnering with the city and the school district, these fees were new to us as well. And I'd appreciate some opportunity maybe to meet with members of the board to discuss the impact that waiver is going to have on the youth. I'm not sure this is the forum for that, but the fee structure was new for all parties involved. So again, I just would like to get on record, even though the Boosters have a 70-year history with the city and the high school, that is a new fee for us as well, that we appreciate the legwork that had gone into it, and we've made preparations to accommodate for that. So I feel like granting even a 1-year waiver is a little bit like going to county market and eating your Thanksgiving turkey and not having to pay for it. So I'd like to discuss maybe what that looks like with some members of the board or whoever is interested in that. And that's
I don't think
on the waiver.
Corey, I don't think they're waiving the fees. They're just waiving the designation of the priority level. They still need to pay to use the fields.
Yep, that I understand, but I
Okay.
think their argument isn't necessarily that. I think it's the percentage of fee is what that waiver is granting them based on an expectation. I haven't looked at it. I guess I don't know, Mike, the price structure between 2, 4, and 7 all the way down, but I think it got gradually more expensive as you went down the list of priority. And so this is a financial benefit for them that they're asking to be granted on faith. And I would just like to continue that conversation if I can. And if I can't, we can't, but I've made it known.
Okay. Anybody else have a comment?
Yeah, I was just I think we'd need clarification on that. Mike, I don't know if you're gonna discuss the fees anymore tonight, but yeah, if the exemption is just for the priority, I guess that's what we'd like clarified as well. Or if it'd be treating us as a nonprofit, exempt this year, that we'd be open to those nonprofit fee structure.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
For a Grandview fee, it would go from $10 an hour to $30 an hour if you went to priority 7 from priority 3.
Yep.
We've got a motion on the table
because
that we're being asked to table. Is that correct?
This is again, Corey Bro, City Hudson Boosters. If I'm able to make that suggestion, yes, that is my suggestion, Chairman Casanova.
Any comment on that on anybody's part? We've got I can't hear you, Paul. Your mic's off.
Sorry. You can't motion to table until you vote on the original resolution under the. We have to vote that up or down and then table it.
And then table it, yeah.
I guess a little bit, and I appreciate Corey pointing out, I'm a little confused now. I think what we were talking about is granting this 1-year waiver in my mind was about access to scheduling fields at priority 4.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's an additional question that's been raised about what is the actual charge for a nonprofit group and whether the waiver covers that. And I think that's unclear right now in my mind. So I was really thinking strictly about the priority 4 in terms of booking it. And it sounds like if that's true, if they're granted a 1-year waiver, that could be argued that it would be applicable to the fee structure too. So I think we need to clarify all of that before I can kind of vote on this motion.
So our choice, if I understand procedure properly, is that you could withdraw the motion in the second, then we wouldn't have anything. And then we could have a separate motion to look at this at the next meeting as a topic. Is that the procedure you'd like to follow?
Well, I can certainly withdraw the motion. Or if the
motion has already been made and seconded, hasn't it?
The motion has been made and seconded. Yeah. Mike seconded it.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
And can I interject? And with us going up to that, with up tiers, that the pay structure goes with that, because that's part of your tier structure is the fees and the access to the field. So that's, yeah, you guys already voted and seconded that to give us that 1-year waiver. So I guess I don't know what the procedure is there with you guys, but how that works. So
It hasn't been voted on yet, Aaron. It hasn't been approved yet.
Cool, thanks.
So the motion we have on the floor is to grant them a 1-year extension to get their 501c3 status. And that if they don't get it in 1 year, they would go to a category 7. Am I stating the motion correctly?
Yep, that's correct.
Yes.
Okay. So all those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Hold on a second, Pat. I'm not ready to
Yeah.
vote on it. Because because what I'm hearing is that also would, by granting the waiver, that also would put them into category 4, which gives them the cheaper field rental.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing. So that's part of it too, is that the waiver would include not just prioritizing, but it would be the lower fee. I'm just trying to clarify if that's what the board is thinking.
I'm just trying to define the motion that we're going to turn down in order to have another one.
Well, I mean, the more I think about it, the more I think it wouldn't be a bad thing to ask sandpipers to go file for a 501c3 and come back in a month and see if they've been granted that. Because then I think it solves the whole thing long term.
That would.
So I'm almost wondering if we should table it right now and ask Piper to try to do that in the next 30 days.
Motion to table
Well, I don't think we
for 30 days.
We have a
motion on the floor now that we have to do something with.
Correct. Sorry. Yes.
So we went from 1 year to 1 month. I don't know if we can do that in a month, honestly. We can apply.
There you go.
That's what I'm trying to encourage you. I'm trying to encourage you guys to apply and then come back and see where that's at.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's our intent is to apply, and if this fee structure stays in place, there's obviously benefit to becoming a nonprofit. If we're going to be using the Grandview Fields at $30 an hour versus $10. So it's just we're trying to stay ahead of the deadline to submit for field reservations, knowing that's probably going to come first.
Okay. So we're back to the motion.
Right. So in that motion, the fees were not mentioned.
No.
It's just, okay. All right.
It's just.
So
we're going to defeat
the waiver. Okay.
So if I'm understanding procedural here, the intent is to defeat this motion that's on the floor and then have a new motion that says what we want it to say, rather than to try to change this one to fit it, correct?
Sounds fine.
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye. All those against? Aye.
Nay.
Okay, so that motion died. Now, if I understand correctly, Paul, you were suggesting that we give them.
I would like to encourage Sandpiper to apply like this week for a 501c3 and come back to this meeting to see if they've been able to obtain that, and then we don't have to deal with change anything.
Okay. And we don't need a motion. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Hearing that, does anyone else have anything regarding this at this time? So, Sandpipers, you guys know what has been put before you to do, and we'll pick it up next month.
Yeah, so I think we appreciate the opportunity to work with you, and we'll look into trying to push that forward for sure. And
okay.
Yep.
Deadlines for field for field, I guess asking for field usage, that's still March 1st?
Yeah,
I'm
we're
sorry,
working on it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, the next item we have under new business is Nick Jantz has got a car show proposed for Prospect Park in May. Is Nick here to go over any of it? Deb?
I guess, do you see Nick here yet? Maybe we could go on. I know he's in college and
Okay.
it's possible he may not show up. Otherwise, Roz can go over it too, whichever can skip through it.
Okay, we'll go on to old business then. First item under old business is the request to place a temporary sled holder and structure at the Vine Street Sledding Hill.
Yep. So I reached out to. Yep. So I reached out to Kathy Munkitrick after our last meeting, just to get her consultation on it, and she basically said that the city is already encouraging sledding there by us placing the bales out on against the tree, so on and so forth. And her only concern was, and I think it was in the issue sheet, that she is okay with the sled structure. It's no liability against the city because of recreational immunity. However, having said that, the city still needs to survey the park just to make sure that sleds aren't being left out on the hill causing a sledding danger, right? Someone's gonna hit the sled, or that city staff look at the sleds that are in the rack to make sure that they're in decent shape. She said one way that the city can protect themselves is that to place on the structure itself that these are donated by private citizens, use at your own risk, so that the city isn't providing those sleds to be used just in case one is defective and somebody gets injured on it. It doesn't come back on the city. So that's what her input was.
Makes sense. Were there any other concerns that anyone had regarding it? Or was that our last issue, Mike?
That was the issue at hand. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. The next item we had under old was our memorial policy.
Well,
do you
let's make a.
Do you guys want to do the sled thing? I guess. I think
that's what I was trying to get at. Is there something there, or we just go on? Because if there isn't a motion, we don't need to stay there.
You need to make a motion on that.
I still have some concerns about the city with this one, but it sounds like, Mike, if I'm hearing you right, the attorney's saying it's okay with that sign up. And I guess the other question would be for yourself, Mike, is that does your department have time to be zipping by there to be checking on those sleds, kind of like what she's asking about, or is that an additional hassle to staff, that kind of thing?
To be honest, that park is in such a visible location right on Vine Street. We have staff going by that facility many times throughout a day that we can just let them know to keep an eye on it, make sure that the sleds are being put back in the rack, and if they are being let out. And if it becomes a problem where the kids aren't picking up after themselves or constantly have to put them back, I wouldn't hesitate to pull it, right? If we're constantly having to go down there and so I mean, I think we just play it by ear, Paul, to be honest.
But are you comfortable, I'm trying to ask, are you comfortable based on Kathy's assessment of moving forward with that?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Okay. So that being said, Mike, do you want a formal motion authorizing the placement of that in the park?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll need a motion to put the sled holder structure at the Vine Street Sledding Hill. If anyone care to make that motion?
I'll move to approve the placement of the temporary sled holder with the signage recommended by the city attorney.
Second.
And been seconded. And that included the signage recommended by the city attorney, correct? You cut out there at the end. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it could have been my phone as well. Is there any further discussion or questions that people have regarding this? Hearing none, the chair will call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sounds like motion carried. So that's, you'll have the sign made up, Mike, to go up when the structure goes over?
So we will contact the organization that brought the request forward saying that it was approved here. Obviously, we'll put it on council consent agenda. And then once that's passed, they'll have, I mean, it's already mid-February. Obviously, we probably only have a month and a half. We'll see if they get it out this year. But yes, we will contact them and we'll get it out there with the signage.
Okay. Anything else on that subject? If not, I'll move on to item B, our memorial policy. We had quite a discussion before about it and put it off to talk about it some more tonight.
Yeah, so this obviously, like Pat said, we talked about this many times this past summer. And, you know, Paul did a fantastic job drafting a memorial policy. The city attorney did review it. At our last park board meeting in, I believe it was August or September of last fall, the motion from the board was for me to go out and identify locations to put the memorials. And, you know, I started to do it and then I got to thinking, you know, it's tough. It was tough to identify exact locations just because each person's memorial and where they want to place it is, you know, personal and near and dear to them, right? And, you know, so having said that, I didn't bring maps or anything like that with specific locations. What I brought forward tonight was just kind of a, you know, a packet, excuse me, a packet of, you know, that people that want to place a memorial in our parks would be able to look at, whether it be benches or trees, and we can add any other thing that you want to add to it, but at this point, benches and trees. And I listed the park locations that we would accept those into. And what would be done is, you know, staff would verify and approve requested placement, which would be brought to park board, planning commission, and council prior to it being installed. So it'd be looked at by many different eyes. And I just think that'd be an easier way instead of trying to pigeonhole everybody, because like I said, there people who purchase memorials want to have a personalized location, and it's tough to pinpoint one. So having said that, you know, I didn't change anything in the memorial policy from our last meeting that Paula drafted. I did include the packet, you know, the information in the sign up form. And guess what I'm looking for park board tonight is, you know, if you had a chance to review it, if there's no comments, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the draft and then forward it on to planning commission for them to review.
Mike, just one question on the like the flyer where it says that you had put together.
Yeah.
I don't have my electronic right in front of me, so bear with me for a second. I think it says under 2.3 something about anybody can do this.
Memorial must be aesthetically complementary to the proposed building surroundings. Memorials,
no.
Is that the one you mean?
Oh, sorry, Pat. I'm talking about the flyer that I think Deb.
Oh, okay.
At the very end. Just a comment where it says, I wish I had the language in front of me, but it says something like anybody can do this or something like that. I think we should just clarify that it has to be a Hudson resident.
Yeah. It says through the memorial and bench tree program, anyone can provide a unique dedication to honor a friend. That's what you're referring to, Paul.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I'm just wondering, should we add something that says like, because we're really, I think are we looking mainly for Hudson residents or people from around Hudson, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
That's what I've thought all along.
Yeah.
That has a significant connection to the city.
Right. So
that was more of the significance is where we've always said significant.
Yep. We can make that change, Paul.
Okay. That's the only thing I saw. I think the rest of it looked really good. I love the pricing out the benches and the trees in the parks. I think it gives people a really good idea of what they can do.
So we'll need a motion to approve that.
I would move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion or anyone have any questions further?
I guess just for the public who might be viewing this and maybe missed our discussion previously, the idea is to make it available for people from Hudson to do a memorial for a loved one who's died by purchasing a bench basically or a tree in the park system. which would be there for 10 years, according to the policy. So it's looked at as a way of helping grieving families, and it's looked at as a way of helping the city with kind of improving our park. So I just see it as a win-win, which is why I'm happy. Hopefully we can send this policy on to planning and to Common Council.
Plus, I think it takes care of one of the issues that we had before, was people just putting something up without really getting it approved or the like. And it also puts it into a greater context. People were concerned about our parks getting turned into cemeteries or with plaques and things all over. Well, it removes that and puts it to specific items in areas where they're needed. There's a motion and it's been seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, the chair will call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. So we'll have those on hand now, Mike. When people come in and want to do something, we'll be able to hand them the brochure and the policy.
Nope. So this will go to Plan Commission, and then it'll go to Council for final approval before we start implementing the policy and the forms. But our intention is to have something, approved and ready for the spring. Yep.
Yeah. Anybody else have any other questions under that? That's it for old. One of the things I had Mike put on the agenda for this meeting was to talk about where we're at with our boat launch and the complete redo of that portion of the park, of where the engineering firms are at and when we'll be seeing something.
Yep.
Mike, you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll take it. So actually yesterday, Fourth Engineering, who's been our consultant on this project, applied for 2 separate grants for the facility. One was the RBF grant through the Wisconsin DNR, which is a recreational boating facilities grant. And the other one is the SRF, Sport Recreational Fishing Grant through the DNR. Total grant reimbursement that we're trying to get is $500,000. And so those were applied for yesterday. And within the next couple months, we should have an indication from the DNR if our project was chosen, with the intention that this project would be final design and bid out, earlier this summer in June, with construction starting kind of early fall, late fall, August, September, October. So we're still on the timeline to try and get this accomplished this year. Obviously, it's all going to hinge on whether or not we receive that grant fund or not. So that's where we're at.
Great. What do they think the likelihood of us getting the grant is?
So they, based upon other projects that have been approved in the past couple of years, they feel that we have a very good chance, just because we are on the St. Croix River, which is a National Scenic Riverway. Yep. And our use numbers are very, very high. And the fact that we charge a fee, the DNR prioritizes those facilities that charge a fee over those that don't, just because the revenue generated can help maintain that facility. So I have my fingers crossed, but we'll see. It all depends on who else applies, because I know the eastern shoreline, like along Lake Michigan, a lot has changed over there with the water levels in Lake Michigan. Yeah. They're a lot higher, and they're destroying a lot of shoreline, so on and so forth. So I know there's going to be a lot of grants coming from that side of the state. So we'll see.
Okay.
So Mike,
anybody else have any? Go ahead, Mike.
Quick question. Thanks, Pat. What would that mean? There's 2 different ones. I'm going to look, $250,000 of one, $250,000 of the other, or something. What would that mean if we got one, not the other? If that's possible, what would that mean if we didn't get either?
Obviously, when we do hear back from the DNR on whether or not we're accepted for one, both, or neither, it would go to council for final approval, because the council will have to pick up the other, the remaining funds for the project, and it'll be up to them to decide whether or not, $250,000 is enough. Do we have enough to cover the remaining portion of the project? So I could just probably, my gut feeling is if we don't get any of the grants, it probably won't go this year. Obviously, we can reapply, but to cover a $1.5 million project, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. Okay.
Without, so.
Thanks.
Yep.
Any other
I don't
questions
see-
regarding?
Oh.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I don't see Nick on, Nick Jantz on yet. I don't know. Do you
Okay.
want to postpone it, Mike, or?
Yeah. We'll just carry it forward to the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the only thing that I have had under item 6 for communications and items for future agendas, it's our most favorite thing to talk about. It's the outdoor recreation plan. So the current plan that we've been operating under expired in 2020, and I will be making some updates and changes and bringing it forward to the board for discussion and review over the next couple of months for you to give your feedback on and see if you want to add anything into it. So I just wanted to make the board aware that this will be coming down the pipeline. Probably won't be in March, but probably, April, May, we'll start bringing it forward to the board for discussion. And then at that time, we can go out and start walking some of the parks and the grounds and just getting outside, having some outdoor meetings. So you get an idea of what you want to see, what you want the parks to look like over the next, 5 years. And that'll also include some of the parkland that'll be incorporated into the park system through the new developments that have happened, the Lee property, the Atwood property, and the St. Croix Meadows development. So those will be included in that plan as well. But just want to give the board a heads up.
Does anybody have anything for future agendas that they want brought up? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone, for participating and coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make a real quick comment before you guys go?
Sure.
Hey, I just wanted to say, and I didn't introduce myself, I guess, very well, but I'm Jim Revoir. I'm the varsity softball coach in Hudson, so I guess I kind of represent the school. But I wanted to say how much, as we travel from field to field and park to park, we play in quite a few parks. I think Hudson parks are one of the nicest maintained ball fields that we play on as far as safety and not having big rocks all over the place. And I think just the gates and the fencing and everything is like top notch. And I meant to say that at the beginning. I got a little nervous, but I really appreciate our parks and the ability to use those from the school point of view. And there's days when we just can't get on our fields because of conditions, and other fields are ready, and the flexibility of Deb and everyone else and Mike to help us get on spaces to play. It's set us up to be a quality program, and we're a very competitive program in the state. So I really appreciate it, and keep up the awesome work. The fields are awesome.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you for your fine compliments. Thank you very much.
All right. Bye, everyone.
So, meeting adjourned.
All right.
Be
Thanks.
safe.